New South Wales Blues name their origin squad. Josh Addo-Carr, Nathan Cleary, Tyson Frizzell, Payne Haas, Nico Hines, Koroisau, Jerome Luai, Liam Martin, Latrell Mitchell, Cam Murray, Tavita Pangai Jr., Junior Paulo, James Tedesco, Brian To'o, Tom Travojevic, Isaiah Yeo, Hudson Young, and Campbell Graham at 18th man. Initial reaction, boys?
Yeah, I've got mixed feelings on it. I think we could have done much worse, without a doubt. I have got mixed feelings on it, though. I think one of the more interesting talking points, Api at 9, playing the full 80 minutes there. I thought that if they were going to go for an 80-minute 9, which seemingly they have, I thought Cook would have probably been the guy. Do you think Api was in the team 4 days ago?
I mean, I'm shocked that Cookie didn't get selected. I really am. I think Api has been a victim of the Tigers' really poor start, and he's probably had, and he struggled because the Tigers were struggling, and it's taken probably this last 3 weeks or 4 weeks for them to kind of catch up to him. So he's probably had 3 or 4 good games this year. So I am, even though we know how good Koroisau is, we're talking about the back-to-back premiership winning 9. For the second year, he came off the bench with Mitch Kenny. Yes, he is playing 80, I'm pretty sure, at the Tigers now, so we know he can do it.
Well, he played 80 on the weekend. The 3 weeks before that, he played 60 to 68.
Well, okay, there you go. Even if he had played 80 every week, I still am really, really surprised Cookie didn't get the call up. I feel like he's had a really good season from round 1. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, that was a big one that stood out. The number 9, I would have gone Cookie as well. That being said, Api's got the combinations with the blokes around him. You know, he was brilliant on the weekend against the Cowboys. I'm certainly not against that selection. Would have preferred Cook. For that reason that you've already touched on, I prefer him going the 80. You know, the last couple of years they've had the dual hooker scenario, the setup. This year, the only hooker's there, so I suppose he goes 80. What the coverage for him would be, I suppose Cameron Murray would slot into 9 if he was to go down, or if he needed a 15-minute breather. I don't think that'll happen. I think the plan will be for him to go 80. So, mate, I'm pretty happy with the squad. There's a couple of little things that stand out. Obviously, Fox gets the nod ahead of Campbell Graham on the wing, which, you know, I'm one of Fox's biggest fans, but Campbell Graham can't have done much more the last 12 to 24 months to get a start. So I thought he was a bit hard done by TPJ. Very surprised to see his name there. Firstly, congratulations to him, but yeah, probably wouldn't have been my first pick on the bench, but yeah.
Well, we'll stick on Api Koroisau initially. I think attacking-wise, and you're right, he's played with Jerome, he's played with Cleary. In the record year they won, though, who was their hooker? Was Damien Cook? 2021. Yeah, it was Cookie. So
Cook started in every Origin game except the last one.
Except the last one, okay. And so that's what surprises me, is that this sudden shift to Api, when Api Koroisau's defence has always been solid. It hasn't been great, it's been solid, and it's been his attacking game that has been just so good. The only thing that from a New South Wales perspective, is the physicality of the game in Origin. How does Api go in defence compared to Cookie? But what you may or may not lose, like he could go out and have a great defensive game, you pick up in attack, because around the ruck he is maybe outside of Harry Grant, but you know what? He might even be more crafty than Harry Grant.
I think he is, and I've said this last year, I think he is the craftiest hooker in the NRL.
So you may pick, being that crafty around a high-speed game in the ruck, maybe that's what Freddie is looking at?
Yeah, and I think that... I just think he's going to have to get through so much work. You even have a look at the Penrith Panthers, you know, how they were picking their sides last year. They'll keep him on the bench for a reason, because they don't want him to have to make 30 tackles in the first 25 minutes. And I just think it does right Queensland's game plan to some extent for them at the start. I'd love to keep a count on how many times he's going to have to tackle Pat Carrigan in the first 25, 30 minutes. They're going to find him a lot. And so they should, 100%. Whereas I feel like if you had Damien Cook, he's, you know, you're obviously going to send traffic at him, but I think it writes their game plan for the first half an hour or so.
Yeah, and I think athletically, you give Cookie probably the edge to get through the cardiovascular of that period that's really tough.
And that's the thing, because Api's now going to have to go 80, something has to change in his game. And it's like, well, what's taking the most effort out of you? Or what's something that you can't make less tackles. If they run at you, you have to make the tackle. It's the running game's probably at times going to have to take a bit of a back seat in terms of going the full 80 minutes. Well, that's the biggest asset of his game, isn't it? Api's running game. So if that's now coming back, 5-10% because he's looking at the longevity and getting through the minutes, yeah, I just thought Cookie was... And you mentioned Kempy before, like Cookie with his combinations. He's got not as good a combination with obviously Luai and Cleary because of the club connection, but he's played plenty of footy with them and has been highly successful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like almost feels silly to say because it's Koroisau, he could go out and be player of the match. And it could be... So it's not like... We're not talking about a shock selection here.
No.
We're just talking about the tiny percentage differences that may...
It's not a bad selection.
Not at all. Not at all.
So my mistake. Api started the last 2 games last year at 9, but he played 52 minutes in one of them, 34 minutes in the other, and then he came off the bench a couple of years ago where he played whatever minutes.
Yep.
And Cookie in most of his games played 80, just for reference.
Now, call me crazy. You can call me crazy. I'm happy with that. When you said who would replace him, I actually think Nathan Cleary replaces him if he goes down and Hines goes to 7.
I think it'll be Jerome Luai if something happens.
Yeah, okay. I reckon Cleary. I reckon
Luai would go before Cleary.
If we're moving our halfback to hooker, that is one of the great bed shits of all time, in my opinion.
No, I'm not saying they're going to do it in part of the game plan. What I'm saying is if he get knocked out, I honestly reckon they put Cleary there because of his defence, and they put Hines and say, Hines, it's your team now, run it.
Big ask. I'll just point out with Jerome Luai, with Api Koroisau, and I don't have a huge problem with the pick, but as we've said defensively, you have a look at his 80-minute games this year that he has played. In none of those games has he missed less than 5 tackles.
Yeah, defensively, he's always been the toughest sell for Api. He's a smaller hooker, but craftiness around the ruck, he is the best.
The other thing that worries me too is that, over the last 5 weeks, Api hasn't made more than 40 tackles once. I'd be shocked if he doesn't push into the high 40s, 50 tackle count.
I mean, Billy Slater and the team, it'll be a red dot on him.
And they will identify that he hasn't made more than 40 tackles in a game, and they will go at him. So they should.
What's Cookie's tackle average been like this year?
I reckon it'll be 45 to 52 around that mark.
Yeah.
You do wonder and look at that, and we touched on it briefly off air, but Nico as the 14, and it ties in obviously so relevant to the conversation we're having now that you're forced to move, be it a spine player, if it's Cam Murray to 9, which it's pretty ordinary cover for your number 9. And 10 years ago when it was, I shouldn't say more rough and tumble, but there wasn't this crackdown on head knocks and players' welfare and all that sort of stuff. Players will be more likely to get through games. But because it's just a flick of the head, you're off for at least 15 minutes, any, symptoms, and you're gone for the game. I love Nico there, definitely deserves his spot, but you do question, is he the right man for 14? He's very versatile, but he's versatile 167, really.
And on top of that, I would ask the question to Freddie, if you didn't think Cook or Api were up to playing 80 minutes last year, now that they're a year older, what's changed?
So Cook is averaging 45 tackles this year at 95% efficiency. Api is 35 tackles this year, although he's play off the bench sometimes at the start, and 87% efficiency.
So there's a substantial defensive difference. What about attacking numbers averaged, as in obviously he's played less minutes and less games, but maybe average it out a little bit?
I'll just read it out. So this is Api. He's played 11 games, 2 tries, 2 forced dropouts, 4 try assists, 4 line break assists, 10 offloads, 58 average running meters. Whereas Cookie, give me one moment.
And stats aren't the be all and end all, guys. So we're not saying that at all.
I think especially when it comes to these two, stats obviously don't tell the full story.
Because Api is so crafty, a lot of the tries may not be specifically just off him kind of thing.
Api's also at a new club and everything, so there's a lot to take.
Yeah, a lot to take in.
There.
So Cookie, 12 games, so one more game, 1 try, no forced dropouts, 4 try assists, exact same, 3 line break assists, 6 offloads, 68 running meters average. So pretty similar in attack.
So
on stats.
So Api with less games probably has a little bit better attack.
Yeah, just slightly ahead. Yeah,
it's just slightly better, and then Cookie probably has just slightly better defense. Well, not just slightly, it was probably a bit of more substantial better. To be fair though, in Api's defence, he's been at the Tigers and he's got those stats. And I know they've been going mad now, but they started the year poorly.
And to be fair as well, I don't think South Sydney's game has been built around Damien Cook's attack. It's been built around the halves that have the hot hand at the moment too.
So yeah, stats aren't everything, but I mean, the idea that Api is probably a little bit craftier in attack and Cookie's a better defensive hooker, I think that's pretty...
Then you also tie in that because Api does play 60 a lot, well, he's got a bit more in reserve to go hard and run the ball more, and whereas Cookie's 80 minutes every single week.
Yeah.
So he can't afford to be gassed with 15, 20 to go and be slipping off tackles and doing all that. So
yeah, that's
and then looking at still at the 14, and I'm so stoked to see Nicho Hynes there, but just again in the makeup of the team, any of the back five, let's say back four, go down the centres and wingers, because we obviously know Nicho can play fullback. You're still leaving yourself very light on if any of those blokes go down, because I guess Nicho goes into centre or wing if required. You know, you could shift Cam Murray out there, but they wouldn't want to do that. I would argue Matt Burton would have been a more appropriate 14.
I was going to say, do you think Matt Burton?
Yeah, just because we know he can cover 6, 7. He can play centre. He can play wing.
Probably fullback.
You can play fullback if you need, but you've got 3 fullbacks in that team already that he slots in at centre. So I've thought I would have picked Nicho at number 6. And once again, I'm not against Luai at 6. I think that's fine. He's been good lately the last couple of weeks, stepping up, leading into Origin. But I would have had Nicho at 6 and then Birdo at 14. There's just a few little holes there if players do go down.
And there's the age-old argument in Origin. You pick the best 17 guys, then you find a position for them. I feel like the way the modern game is played and with HIAs and everything, we've moved away from that a little bit.
I think also Queensland for the last 20 years haven't done that.
Yeah.
Look, they've been fortunate because we've got the key spots, but back rowers and that we've always been a lot of the time combinations rather than playing ability. Or form or whatever. I understand it's an anomaly, so it's like very easy to do that when you're surrounded by goats. But I agree with you in regards to picking your best 17 just form. I don't know if that's...
And I feel like, years ago, like it made sense to do that when you look back at the great New South Wales teams, whether it was, picking Joey at 9 or picking Brett Kenny at centre, all these sort of moves. I feel like the game's moved away from that a little bit, despite us picking 2 fullbacks in the centres, to be fair. But I question.
I think that's the anomaly similar to Queensland. Yeah. Like Latrell and Tommy, they're anomalies. They're not normal players that we're talking about here.
And that's the other thing that we've been talking about the Roosters for a long time about how, there's so many chefs in the kitchen and whatnot. I mean, when all these guys are on the park, you're going to have Turbo roaming. You're going to have Nicho, I would assume, playing like a roaming sort of 13 role. You're going to have Teddy floating around. It just feels like there's going to be a lot going on.
And then you've got Kraft out of dummy half from Happy.
Which ties back into that hooker selection of... Cookie obviously has a wonderful running game. He's made a career out of it. But Api probably runs a little bit more. Like, we don't necessarily need another entirely creative player out of number 9 because Cookie's service this year from 9 has also been so crisp.
Yeah. That's what's also surprising for me is, let's just take the names out of it and you go, Cookie's always played well at Origin. The Rabbitohs, before last week, the form, arguably premiership favourites, and he's been the number 9 for him. That's it's very surprising. But I think from Freddie's perspective, he's looking at it like back-to-back premierships, Api. If I want a gelled spine together, Api, Luai, Cleary, Yo, these guys know each other.
And surely that played a huge role in it. I would say with the 5'8" and the 9 jersey, Freddie saying to his half and his 13, who are going to run this team? Who do you want there?
Isn't it interesting how different this side could look? Say Nathan Cleary had a 6-8 week injury. There might not be a Luai. There might not be Api Koroisau. How one man just because of that combination of the spine changes so much this team selection.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Well, like if that was to happen, you could all of a sudden see Freddie lean heavily into South Sydney combos there.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, Ilias is a few years away, but you might even go Hines, Walker, Cookie.
You could go Damien Cook at 9. You could play Cody Walker on the left with Latrell Mitchell on that side.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, this one position just changes everything. It's, as I said, it feels bizarre because it feels like from my perspective, it feels like we're talking negatively about Api, but we're not at all. Like, Api is a gun. He genuinely could, as I said, go out and play the game of his life and tear Queensland apart through the middle.
And that's where, if our forward pack gets over the top of yours, which, I think it'll be a very even clash, but if we do win the middle, Api could be the best player on the field.
He could
and it's the
tear
pick
us
of
apart.
Origin.
Like Origin, high speed, less time to make decisions, fatigue around the ruck. There's not much more that you'd want in Api Koroisau there. You know, maybe Harry Grant is equal due to his like power, explosiveness through the middle, but
And obviously, like we might at times, like speaking at this side and the Maroon side, when we get to that, sound a little bit glass half empty and a little bit negative at times. It's not knocking anything too major. It's just, you know, if we agreed with everything and it was all sunshine and roses, it'd be pretty boring listening, wouldn't it?
well,
So
we literally, yeah.
we're nitpicking
Yeah.
at little things that maybe could have been differently, but you know, nothing's a mile off. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. It's if we agree with everything, it'd be like great team.
yeah.
End of show. End of show. Now, so the Api Koroisau one, that's going to be really interesting to see it play out. It is crazy how much that is going to dictate the way the game is played, because it's clearly going to be a target for Queensland through the middle, and I wonder how Freddie's going to try to combat that. You know, because he's obviously going to want to be able to put the people around him or defensive systems to make sure that he's sweet. Now, on to the mighty Maroons. Let's go, baby. At number 1, Reece Walsh.
Pick and stick my ass.
2, Selwyn
flick
Cobbo.
it is.
Yeah.
It's called player welfare, mate. You should read up about it. Just taking care of
Yeah, look at
Ponga.
how we're taking care of Campbell Grant. Got them all.
2, Selwyn Cobbo. 3, Valentine Holmes. 4, The Hammer. 5, Murray Tuolangi. 6, Cam Munster. 7, DCE. 8, to start, Thomas Flegler. 9, Benny Hunt. 10, Lindsay Collins. 11, Tommy Gilbert. 12, David Fafita. 13, Paddy Carrigan. 14, Harry Grant. 15, Tino Fa'asoma Alawi. Got off his charge. He's got a fine. 16, Ruben Cotter. 17, Jairo. 18, Dearden. 19, Christian Welsh. Initial reactions, boys?
Yeah, I think we've got to start at the 1 jersey, don't we?
You can start wherever you want, baby.
I expected KP to be named there, knowing what I know of Queensland and how they pick and stick and everything. And I thought he was. And I don't think he got your player of the series last year, but I would have given it to him personally. So I thought he was going to be there. That one really surprised me. I understand the HIA argument and all that sort of stuff, but I just think that KP's been so good for Queensland for so long that I would have picked him there for sure. That one surprised me.
Yeah, I am smiling from ear to ear not seeing KP's name there.
Yep.
After, like, I'm still having nightmares about him decimating, his killing us last season. And Reece Walsh, I cannot wait to see Reece Walsh in the Origin arena, just purely as a footy fan and saying, all right, you're dominating the NRL, step up, what do you got at the biggest level? But, yeah, no Kalyn Ponga. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a bit of a concussion concern around him. We know they'll target him if he's there, but the fact is that he's back at fullback. He doesn't have to make 25 tackles a game. I'm very relieved to not see KP's name.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I probably would have been gone KP, but when you look at it, he's had 2 games back now,
Yep.
and he's got HIA in one of them.
Yep.
Pretty dramatically, like as in the one this week, and I know he came back on, he was all good, but he got hit hard. It wasn't just a little chop around he got hit hard and was down. So, oh man. 7 games in 10 months, I think it is. So I can understand from that perspective, but I personally probably still would have gone Kalyn.
Yeah, I don't have the exact numbers, but if it's 7 games in 10 months or whatever, I remember the 2 games in 10 months where he's the best player on the field against us. So I'm the same as Tim. I'm happy not to see KP named from a New South Wales perspective. I know that Reece Walsh is a tremendous player and it scares the living shit out of me sending Reece Walsh to spend 2 weeks with Billy Slater. But I know that KP will deliver on the big stage every single time. I think Reece Walsh will, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And like Reece Walsh absolutely has the ability, but going into Origin, you can't afford to make 3 errors. You know, going for the big play each, you need to be basically 1 error is too many in Origin.
He's a freak in attack, we know that, but he's far from flawless, you know, when it comes to probably not so much defensive positioning, but, you know, one-on-one defensively when he is required to make some tackles. He's had a few mistakes where he probably goes a little bit too hard at things. So
I wonder if they rein that in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, Walsh is a star and he'll probably spend a lot of time in this Queensland squad over the next decade, but just when, it's at the expense of KP, who, as Guru said, you just know KP will not only come in and deliver, but he can single-handedly win you a game. But to be fair, Walsh probably can too, but we haven't seen it.
We just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you're saying on regards to I probably would have had KP there. I think if he gets through yesterday's or on the weekend's game, no HIA, I think he probably gets selected. But heading into camp after all the head knocks he's had to get another head knock. So what's that? Is that 3 HIAs so far this year? Yeah? Because he had the first one where they thought it wasn't a HIA where he stayed down and he went off against the Warriors.
Yep.
Then he had the one against the Tigers, completely knocked out.
Yeah.
Had 5 or 6 weeks off. Then he had another HIA on the weekend.
3, yeah.
So it's three in 12 weeks of rugby league.
3, 1 failed. Badly.
Yeah. I still probably would have had Kalyn there. But I'm stoked for Reece Walsh. What a journey. What a climb to first grade, to Origin. Going away, coming back to be with his family at the Brisbane Broncos. And if you ever wanted an example of sometimes the bigger contract is definitely not worth it, look at Reece Walsh. Like, is he playing Origin if he isn't at the Broncos? Is he the superstar that we see in the game today if he isn't at the Broncos? Probably not.
Yeah, and as much as, I'm happy to see Reece Walsh there because KP scares me more. The thing that scares me so much about Reece is what I've always loved about him. He's just trying to win the game, always.
And that's the thing that is similar to Billy Slater. Billy Slater would always be trying to win the game from any part of the field. And I think he likes that in Reece Walsh, that he just goes for it. But the glass half empty take on it is that sometimes Reece goes for it too much. And you can't do that in Origin. You get punished for that in Origin.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether Billy's going to be able to find that balance with Reece and go, mate, you are incredible in attack. Just got to pick your moments. I will say, as a Brisbane fan, thank you. 2 weeks, a whole 3 if we get 3 games with Billy Slater training, are you kidding me? Thank you.
I think from a Brisbane perspective, obviously the Reece Walsh issues, I also think the confidence that Flegler's going to take from being a starting front rower is going to be
One of the Dolphins.
devastated you're losing him. And so sorry to take it off Reece Walsh, but I think there's a really good couple of wins in this for Brisbane.
The Reece Walsh one, if he comes out, has 2 try assists and is on the highlight reel forever, wouldn't surprise me. Comes out, has 2 try assists, but also has 2 errors, probably wouldn't surprise me. It is going to be interesting to see when the heat is turned up, how does Reece respond?
What's his plate made of?
Yeah, because they are going to absolutely, every time he gets the ball, he's getting hit hard and put to the ground hard, pressure on his head, everything that you can think of in Origin, all the little tiny things you don't see. It's going to be interesting to see how he reacts. I think he reacts like a champion. He just needs to make sure that you can't stay down. You can't, this is sore, that's sore. Yeah. You get straight back to your feet, get to your next job. Now, I think he's improved that this year alone. Like at the start of the year, there were a few times, even in pre-season, got hit, stayed down. Then he was sweet. In Origin, you just can't do that. You got to be bombed straight up.
So exciting because he's got all the elements to be an absolute superstar of our game. But long term, it means nothing if you don't have ticker. I'm not saying Reece Walsh doesn't, but this is where you find out if a player does have ticker or not.
And it is interesting because you look through the history of the Maroons, most guys, before they come into the spine, they've got to wear the 14. They've got to go on and play lock.
Yeah.
Get beaten to a pulp and show that they can handle it. Reece Walsh just skipped that.
Straight in there. Do you reckon, this is hindsight hero kind of stuff, but do you think the fact that KP's been in the front line, had to make more tackles, if he had played fullback from day one this year, would he have lost his spot? I know it's hindsight.
I didn't want to ask the question, but
he still could have got head high at fullback. He still could have got a HIA. But I do think being in the front line increases the likelihood of contact.
Quite possibly. And I just wonder if, maybe if he was just playing fullback in general, that might have lent Billy to pick him there.
Well,
more.
I think
I don't know.
we spoke, so we were quite vocal about it in the pre-season, saying we want him to stay at fullback for that reason alone, that we just didn't want him making all those tackles in front line with his concussion history. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all 3 of his concussions have been making tackles, haven't they, this season? 2,
and then I think one was going for a ball.
One going for a ball.
Yeah,
okay.
but the 2 big ones.
Yeah, were making tackles that if he's at fullback, I know it's different. You jump high balls, you probably get that contact in the air and hit the deck hard, but you make 3 or 4 or 5 tackles a game. So I reckon, yeah, probably.
Wow, Reece Walsh in Origin. It truly, he is a showstopper. He is a showstopper. But it's also interesting how different he is to Tedesco. Such a different player. Like they are so different. Cannot wait. And I hope Reece kills it. Absolutely kills it.
Wouldn't want to be playing Newcastle this weekend, just quietly.
Oh, because KP will
Jesus.
be
Not
filthy.
to mention Gagai.
Oh, Gagai and KP.
Knight's absolutely cheering, hey, going from like, we're about to lose KP, Gagai, probably Saifidi to, no, you're like full strength.
You're full strength. You're
That's
good
the
to
other
go.
thing too. There'd be a few Saifidis sitting up there going, Tavita, over us. We've been there and done it.
Yeah, we've been there and done it and played relatively well. Yeah, look, the KP situation. I wonder if the conversation purely was, mate, just get through this week. And then, because like, let's say Reece Walsh just plays solidly and KP plays the next 3 weeks well. Does KP get the spot back because of his history?
He has to, doesn't he?
Surely.
Like he's the man. He's your number one
Yeah.
when there's no concern and he's fit and good to go. So, yes, I think so. If he gets through the next 3 weeks leading into Origin 2.
Surely.
Like, imagine if, again, great position to be in, but let's say Walsh kills at game 1 and then KP the next 3 weeks, which would surprise no one, kills it for the night, and then they go, we can only pick one of you. I said, great position to be in, but it's like,
In saying that, you say, if KP kills it next week, he plays Manly this week. He's got a bye, doesn't he?
got the bye, then round 15.
So will he get 2 games in or only one?
Okay, but 2 games. Yep, so 13, round 13, bye, then he'll play round 15, and then Origin's round 16, which he'd, so 2
will
games.
they pick the team after round 15 though? Is that?
Yeah, after.
Yeah.
So he'd get two games.
Okay.
And another thing that a lot of people, they're not going to pick up on, but here at Bloke, we're going to pick up on this stuff. Hottest fullback all time, Origin. Just said it. No, there's never been a hotter fullback.
I'm going to raise you an Anthony Minicello.
Oh, yes.
You're kidding. Reece Walsh. I love the count, but come on. Reece Walsh, hottest fullback all time. All time. Doesn't come close.
Have you seen Mini with his lid off, mate? It's more than just a head.
Wow, he's a grasping at straws there. Jeez Louise. Reece Walsh, pretty boy Reece. Eyelashes that won't quit. You kidding?